Welcome to Albinism Talk with Marvelyn, with your host, Marvelyn Green. Before I introduce our guest today, please to follow Yell for Change on all social media platforms, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you'd like to be a part of the Yell and Yellow campaign by sending your yellow pictures, please get in touch with Yell for Change Instagram page. Without further ado, we have a beautiful sister in the house tonight, all the way from DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
She is also the founder of Hope of Albinism UK and Democratic Republic of Congo. I present to you Rachel Shulungu. Good evening, Rachel.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be here tonight. Thank you for inviting me, Marvelyn.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking your time up with me. It's an honor to have you in Albinism Talk. So, Rachel, even though I introduce you, just give a bit of introduction about yourself, what you do, quote unquote.
My name is Rachel Shulungu Dodo. I'm a founder of Hope of Albinism. Before I became a founder, I'm a wife, a mother, and I'm a minister of religion. So, and then now, a founder of Hope of Albinism UK and DRC. So we support and assist people living with albinism in UK and DRC. And as I'm a mom as well of a child living with albinism. So this is a little bit about me.
Awesome. Oh, wow. I'm glad that I should have called this episode Parent Edition to me. Albinism Parent Edition, but it's okay. I can still title that on YouTube. It doesn't matter. It's still Albinism Talks. It doesn't matter if you are a parent. So all parents is also welcome. So we're gonna go into that now. So you mentioned you have a child with albinism.
Yeah.
Please explain about what was your experience like as a mother when your child was born with this condition. What was that like for you?
First of all, I can say that I knew about albinism growing up in DRC. Mm-hmm. So when I came in UK, I was a young mom, and then I was pregnant. When you are pregnant, you never know how your baby gonna look like. Especially when you carry a child with albinism, it's difficult to know that you're gonna have a child with albinism. I know some of the condition now, they can detect and then tell you that your child's gonna look like that, but with albinism, there is no way you can know that you have a child, you are carrying a person or a baby with albinism. So when I give birth in the hospital, the first thing was, oh, where's the dad? The nurse. So when I see my child, I was not shocked, because I knew about albinism. So it's just something that you don't know, you just, see the baby and then you just say, oh, as African, and then have black skin, and then my husband as well. So we've been, expecting to have a child like looking like us. So to have a child who's blonde and, blonde hair and blue eyes, it was a little bit, surprise for everyone. So, and the nurse, so this is what I have, one of the nurses asked, where's the dad? And the dad was just there. So, and so this is what happened. And then my brother and sister, my family was there. And one of my brother asked my sister, he called my sister and asked about my sister, what's going on? Is Rachel cheat on why the baby's white, why the baby's like that? And he forgot about albinism because my child, she had blue eyes. She was like white. She just was like blonde, beautiful baby. And then my sister told him, do you forget she have a baby? She have albinism. And she, I forgot about that. Oh, so this is how everything starts. And yeah, she was very welcome to the family, and everything was fine. But I have a difficult times, to find out how to look after a child with albinism. So it was a little bit difficult for me because there was no organization like today. There was no way to ask. There was some doctor that was telling me what to do, but I didn't know many things. So I learned every time when she was growing up, and then I learned some of the things like putting a sun cream. I didn't know about that. So all these things I learned by raising her. So I have this experience by raising a child living with albinism.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting because, it's very rare that you have both parents present when a child is born with albinism. And, maybe, some people, as you said about the cheating side of things, like, the question, did you sleep with a white man kind of thing? So
Yeah.
this is no surprise, and this is quite common. You hear these stories all the time. And for your husband now, how did he feel about that as well? How did he feel?
He didn't show me, but he welcomed the baby. We we never have. He didn't show me any negative way, or he loved her baby so much. She was an angel to us. Even if we name her Ange after, I prepared another name because I was supposed to give her my mom's name, and then when I saw her, we changed the name. Next day, I say no, she's the angel. So we name her Ange. Ange in French means angel.
Okay.
So we welcome the baby. My husband didn't have any negative.
That's amazing, because that's a good thing that your husband embrace her and show her that unconditional love. Because, when you hear these scenarios in Africa, especially, that the men would abandon their wives or their girlfriends because of the fact that the child was born with albinism, and they assume that the woman cheated on them and so forth. So this scenario, I look at it now, it's actually a good scenario and a good look for look. If in your case, I'm glad that God can send a good man in your life, like your husband, that can love your child, didn't look at the condition, but see her as a blessing, in other words. So yeah, so I'm truly amazed by this. I'm truly glad that I can hear the positive now about parents, sticking together, whether the child was to be born with albinism or born with, any different deficiency or genetic conditions. And that's what it's all about. It's not about, trying to abandon a child, because no, it's no fault of the child that they're born. So for me, I'm the only child from my mom and dad, and I'm the only one that was born with albinism, and for me, and I'm the only one in my family as we speak right now who has this.
Yeah.
However, I do have some family members that do embrace the condition, and you have some that are just ignorant of it. But, it's about loving yourself and loving the skin that you're in, and to know that there's many people out there like me, and there's younger generations of albinism coming up. It's about educating and understanding the condition, and don't let ignorance get the better of you. So, Rachel, I have to ask you this. Like, for example, like when you go on the street now, and when Ash,
Ange, yes.
right, when she was little and everything, Did you get the stares as a mother? Did
Oh
you
yeah.
face all the stares? Like, explain,
Yeah.
please share your story, your
Yes, yes,
experience.
all the time, all the time. It started in the hospital, like I
Oh
said, in
my.
the hospital, and then I get all these stares. People were just looking at me. People were asking me questions as well. Coming asking question. She your baby? She your baby? And I remember one day it was I was breastfeeding her on it was in a public place. She was crying. I didn't have any bottle. She like breastfeed you know. So I started breastfeeding her, and then people was just looking at me. I thought people was looking at me. It's not because I was doing it in the public way, because the way the baby was, I was black lady and with a blonde baby, breastfeeding a blonde, a white baby. So there was all this staring, and people were looking at you like, oh, yeah, I knew about that. So in the beginning it was a little bit, you know, very, people are staring at you all the time and looking at you. And then I start to, get to use for on that. I know
What?
that people don't.
What would you? Did you say abused?
No,
Abused.
used to
Oh,
be, to accept that people, even if people are looking at me, it doesn't matter. I know they are looking at, because they see that I have a different, my baby's blonde, and I'm black, and asking question. There are some people, they've been coming and then ask me question. How come your baby, she's blonde and then you are black? So I have all this I have to answer, giving answer to people, and answering all these questions. So I have all this till now. She's 20 years old. Even if when we walk on the street and people are just staring, they are looking at her sometime, and they are looking at me. And sometimes when I look to the person, and then they just turn away. They just So this is our life, and
this comes with the package of albinism, trust
yes,
me.
yes.
It comes with this package, trust me. And I can relate to the stairs.
Mm,
And, my mom, obviously, my mom has other children, but not from my dad, but obviously in another relationship.
mhm.
And, you know, when I was in Jamaica 2019 and I was walking with my sisters, and my sisters was like, oh, they're staring at you. I just brushed it off and I'd be like, yeah, so? So what? No, with all honesty, like I always tell my, I always look at it as, if someone stares at me now, is either they're curious,
Yeah.
for one, or they're just ignorant. You
Mm,
know, there's a big difference when somebody stares at you in a way like as if they're questioning it, and then you have some people, they're just ignorant. So
yes.
I look at that, you know, I take that as a positive for me. When people stare at me and they look at me and they think, oh, okay, all right, you know, is that, you're looking at my outer appearance, but you don't know who I am. So
Yeah.
what you see is what you see, but you
Yeah.
don't know what it's like to live with albinism. And for me, I've had the negatives, and I've had positives, and I've had the negatives. So I know, so for educational wise with Aj, what support and accommodation did you put in place for her education?
In school.
Yes.
Yeah, she have some support in school, and all the time when even when she start in the beginning, when she start nursery, I have to go and speak to the teacher and explain to them that she have albinism, and she wearing glasses, because she started wearing glasses when she was before no when she start nursery, and then the teacher realized that she have a difficult, um to not reading. She was like too close to the
Out to the board.
yeah. So I took her to the optician, and then she started wearing glasses, and so I have to explain to the teacher she have albinism, and She have all this support in school. I think in the UK, you have people come to school to make sure that you are okay. They were taking her outside and make sure that she can cross the road if she see properly, all that. And there was like a board, how do you call it? I forgot the name again. So she have all this.
We're talking. I had that.
Yeah. So she have all this support in school. Yeah.
So that did she had training for crossing the road and that?
Yes.
Oh, I had that as well. Was it from the Royal Institution of the Blind?
Yes, it was that one. Yeah.
I had that. I had a guy, and I'll share a bit about my journey with albinism as well with you, because as you know, I'm from Jamaica. I'm a Jamaican British, and in Jamaica they didn't really had that accommodation to really support me. So in my primary years, I struggled in a sense of I was sitting in the front of the class, but it didn't make a difference because I still couldn't see. My vision was very low. And there were times where I had to sit on the floor to write notes, even though I was very educated and so forth in my class. I was very advanced in my learning, but my vision was a barrier for me in my primary years. So I knew I was different. I knew my skin was different. Even though I knew who my family, and they showed me love and everything, especially my grandmother and my aunts. They looked out for me, take care of me, and made sure that I was protected in the sun and so forth. If I go in the sun, my mom and my grandma would say, "Come out the sun," shout at me and say, "Come out the sun."
Yeah.
And so forth. They really made sure that I wore clothing that will protect my skin from sunburn, even though, kids will be kids, you're like, "I don't want to do that, I'm getting too hot." But I had a little shock. But when I came to the UK and at the age of 12 years old, the Royal Institutes of the Blind came in, did my training for crossing the road. And they showed me how to walk and all them things what I did. I went through that. And I also had another lady that comes in and they assess me, I think every a couple of months or so. They will come into my school because I went to mainstream schools. I went to an all-girls school, and I was the only one in school who had albinism. So that was a big thing for me, coming to another country, starting a new school, and then they place you in special educational needs for my vision impairment. All of that, it was all in what it was a lot to take in at a young age. Then to be told, and I explained the situation with one of the ladies, and I said, "Miss, I don't know, something is missing here, because how comes my mom's black, my daddy's black, I know who my parents are, but my skin's different. Am I adopted? Did my mom adopt me? Is this a joke?" Because I questioned it, and I questioned, is this some kind of a joke? What's wrong? Why is my eyes this way? And then I was really getting a bit emotional about it, in a sense. She said, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry, it's good to be different. And then when she explained to me what albinism was, so you have albinism, and I said, what's albinism? This is the first time I discovered that at 12-year-old me, this albinism. None of my family didn't really teach me about albinism. Obviously, even though my grandmother here would take me opticians and everything, make sure I get glasses and whatnot for me to see and everything, because they accommodate as they could. But to find out that I had albinism, it makes sense now that, why my skin is the way it is, why I have to put cream on, why I have to wear glasses and so forth. And in school, I will tell you this now, the teachers were very helpful. What I hated in school was when they did the enlarged print for me, They did it on the big A3 paper. I hated that. Hated that. I had this talk last night with a friend, with another albinism person. Especially when it comes to exam times, it's actually not for GCSEs, but when it came to the real thing, I told them I don't want to have the big paper. It was embarrassing. I don't mind large print, but please don't make it be that big A3 paper.
I
I don't know if Aj went through that.
Yeah, but it was not too big, because you know, she was going all the time. I was making sure that she see properly, you know, the book, and she didn't have a big. Sometimes, but not all the time. Not all the time. They was doing a big, you know, the big print or something like that. No. But she have some. I always make sure that I always told her, if you can't see or there's anything, you know, you have to talk, you have to ask question. Don't just keep it for yourself, you know, talk to me and all that.
Yes, yeah. I'm glad that you put in that support for
her. She have all the support. I was making sure that, you know, talking to the teacher all the time and make sure that she's fine and that she have everything she need. Yeah, she have all this support.
Because you see, it's important that the support comes from the internal, because once the support comes from the internal, especially with a person or a child with albinism, it's important that the support comes from the internal. Otherwise, when they go out in the external, no, it's like it's a struggle for them. And I'm glad that Aj is getting the support and getting the love at home. That is so important. The love, the support. And also, as a mother, I want to say congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Continue to do your part, and daddy as well. And one of the messages I want to really deposit as well on Albinism Talk with Marilyn is everybody is a carrier of the albinism gene. Everyone is a carrier of it. And how I know everybody's a carrier of this is because albinism occurs in every ethnic background, race, doesn't matter what religion you are. Albinism is in every race. And also, you know, it's something that is underdeveloped since conception and birth. So it's not something that, okay, you can't catch a cold. It's not like that. So albinism is something that is about embracing being different and embracing uniqueness. And one of the things that I've heard, you know, in Africa is the fact that your parents are abandoning their children for this.
Yeah.
Especially mothers are abandoning. It's either they're in fear of the community or they just don't know how to handle their child being different. And I think it's time to really educate parents about loving the child no matter what skin they're in.
Yeah.
And it's important that as an advocate yourself to really educate mothers and educate family members that albinism is something that it can happen to anyone unexpectedly. It happened to me. And my mom and dad are two Black normal people, but for some reason they gave birth to a person with albinism, which is me. And obviously, you know, now a lot of my family members, when I'm doing these talks now, have aunties or, you know, sending messages in support to me to say, keep representing the albinism community, keep doing what I'm doing. And I mean, put it this way, it's not, I didn't just get up and said, I'm going to do Albinism Talk or do Yell for Change. It's something that it happened. And things happen in seasons and time. So I feel this is the time and season for this to happen. And sometimes, you know, the very thing that you feel uncomfortable with, you eventually start to engraft and you start to feel comfortable are doing this. So Yell for Change, I enjoy meeting other people with albinism like myself. I enjoy meeting parents like yourself. And I want to continue this journey so that the message doesn't stop, the work doesn't stop. So moving on, Rachel. So with Aj, did she face any form of bullying or stigma?
Yeah, sometime in school. In school, sometimes she can come or she have, when she was in the primary school, she have a difficult to find friend like black. She wanted to be, she's from a black community. And then when she go to school, she always have white friend than black. This is the issue with black community. People with albinism and from black descendant, they've been rejected by their own community. This is happening everywhere, and especially in Africa. This is what we have, all this issue about killing and then discrimination in Africa because of the skin color. She had it when she was growing up, having friend or black friend. She was always with white friend. But when she grew up, and now when she go to high school, that's where I see that she have now black, black friend. And I think they understand when they know that she's black, even if she have white skin, and she can explain to them that, look, this is who I am. I'm not a white person. I'm a black. So now she have most of her friends, they are all black. So she been accepting in the black community. But growing up when she was small, he was always with white children, then black community with black friend. So for me, it was
because
something. Oh, I have difficult to hear you, Marvelyn. Sorry. Oh, I don't know if it's on my side. I can't hear you properly.
Yeah, it's okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Hello,
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Let's see. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I can hear you. Yeah.
No, I can't.
Racism in your own culture or your own ethnicity. I know the sound's gonna apologize. I'm not sure. Sorry, I apologize. Internet signal, guys. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
So, well, sorry, I don't want to say it yet, but yeah, I'm sure she can hear me.
Yes.
Silver, just type yes if you can hear me. So one of the things okay. So one of the things I've learned is Black people need to be educated about uniqueness, and at the end of the day, if you know what racism or discrimination feels like, why are you inflicting it on somebody else? And the fact that for me, like, I was a people's person, but I also still felt the stigma myself. I still, even though I made friends and everything, but I still felt that isolation. I still felt that ridicule from my own race. I still felt that rejection side of things, So I integrated with different people. in school. So not only with blacks, I mixed with whites, Asians, everybody. So to kind of like break away from that stigma and feeling isolated. But I'm glad that she has made friends and people have accepted her for who she is. And I know there was a lot of people in school was curious about me. I've had people class me as mixed race. I've had people ask me if I was a white or black. I had all these questions thrown at me. I've had that questions thrown at me plenty of times. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Just making sure. So it's one of those things that's about educating the community about albinism. So it's about educating, and that's one of the 4 E's of Yale for Change is educate. And getting people, because obviously albinism is misunderstood. A lot of people make assumptions about it. A lot of people just come to conclusion, oh, this and that, and then created their own agendas around albinism. And it's not really a good thing to do, to be honest, because it's already hard dealing with being different, and then society creates this stigma and stereotype due to ignorance and not knowing what the condition is all about. So moving on now to the myths in Africa, and as a part of advocacy, it's about spreading the message to stop killing people with albinism. Now, I've heard the stories in southern part of Africa, so now we're gonna take it to the DRC now. Is that happening in Congo?
Yes, it's happening in Congo, but not much that other place like Tanzania or the country, but it's happening in Congo as well, especially when it's election, when there is this election time for voting. So this is what people think. They believe that the part of body of people with albinism can bring luck or can bring wealth for them to be voted, and then they use all this by witchcraft. So it's happening, but people doesn't talk about it like all the country, but it's happening, and they've been hiding all this information. But in some place it's happening. But I'm glad now we have many organizations around GRC. So people are talking about albinism, and then raise awareness and educate people about albinism, and I think it's going to help a lot and save lives for those who didn't know, because many people didn't know that albinism is a condition, is not what they think, what they heard. So by having all this organization, and even my organization, I'm trying not just in capital. Now we have a different place in different parts of DRC, that when I know someone, I just spoke to them. I say, can you start this? Can you start raising awareness where you are talking about albinism? And then people can know, the community can know what albinism is all about. So this is what we do. And I hope all this killing and all this discrimination will end.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do all we can, to raise awareness. I think it's working. It's working. Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You gotta start from somewhere, sis. Like you gotta start from somewhere, because even if it's you spread a word of mouth to somebody, then somebody spread the message that this is not what it is. And to be fair, I wouldn't think that this would happen in DRC, because obviously that's Central Africa. But because of the myths that's spreading from Tanzania, it's like they're spreading it across the continent, which is that needs to be, they need to put a lid on this, because when you hear of babies getting killed and mutilated for black market purposes, it is so barbaric. It's so heartbreaking. And then not only that, then you have mothers that are traumatized and family members are affected by these vicious attacks and killings. And it is like it puts people in fear of their lives. Some people have to leave their own country to go to another country for their own safety, for things like this. And this is the message that we need to stop killing us. Stop killing us. Seriously. If you're touching another person with albinism, you're touching me as well, because I have the condition. You're touching Arj as well because she has the condition. You're touching Sue because she has the condition. So anybody that has albinism and you decide to say you're gonna cut an arm or cut a leg off, you're basically saying you're gonna cut off my hand as well, and cut off my foot as well. So, and the thing is, I want to know, when did somebody decide to, or even heard of that has made money off a person or in wealth? I want to know the story, and when, I want to know, and I want to see, I want to see the evidence. Not then, this is beyond too much now. And a person with albinism has the right to live a normal life without fear, without prejudice, without persecution. And I literally feel that it's the time to, advocates and organizations need to start to keep going and start spreading the message. And as a for trained advocacy, it is my due diligence to really keep doing my part as well. So as a part of wearing the yellow campaign, as well, as you can see that I'm wearing yellow, and yellow is to represent albinism awareness. So that's a shining the light of albinism. It's shining the light on the awareness of the killings. I'm wearing yellow for my brothers and sisters. I'm not only wearing yellow for me, I'm wearing yellow for Aj. I'm wearing yellow for the people who are struggling, for the single mothers who have children with albinism. I'm wearing yellow for them also.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And we have this project coming, supporting parents like me, supporting parents who have children with albinism. And we're trying, so it's going to start, we're trying to do it here in the UK as well, working with hospital, because we just, as my experience, when I had Ange, when I had my child, there was no information about albinism in hospital, or any poster or anything that you see, oh, this is a mom or a child with albinism. So we are trying all we can do, supporting all these parents. Like you say in Africa, some parents, they just abandon their children because they don't have support. They are ashamed to take the children to their family or to the society and the community. What they're going to say about them, because for them it's a bad luck to have a child with albinism. So we're trying to, is a curse. So we're trying to, working about, supporting those parents who've been affected, who need support, emotionally, how they're going to cope, how they're going to raise a child with albinism.
And giving them the tools.
Yes, how, about all this, people gonna staring at you, people gonna say things, people gonna, talk all this bad thing. How are you gonna cope about this? It's not easy as a parent as well, to raise a child with albinism. You need to have this, prepare yourself for what people gonna say about your child. So this is what we're trying to, we have this project to support parents who having children with albinism.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, so let's move on to Hope with Albinism now. Your work that you do, as you mentioned, when was that established?
In 2014, but we've been registered just this year that we've been registered as a CIC, Community Interest Company.
Okay.
So, but we started in 2014.
Okay.
Yes.
So is that non-profit?
No, it's a community interest company. It's not yeah, it's the same as a charity, but this is CIC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are doing the same thing, same thing like charity does.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, because for me, I like to, now it's like I'm learning so much now just because I have albinism. That don't mean that I'm not gonna stop learning about it, because it's important for me as a person with albinism to learn more from another person's perspective, not just mine, and the parents' side of things, and to not to have you on Albinism Talk with me today is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that with Hope of Albinism. If you want me, if anything, I'll, if you'd like, to me to donate towards that, I will show my support in the way that I can to help with Hope of Albinism. So let's talk about the word albino versus albinism now, because what do you think of the word albino? What do you think of that word?
I think there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong about the word albino with albinism, but I prefer albinism is because
Yes,
it's a person living with a condition. It's not like this is the person is that word. Is a person living with that condition. So a person living with albinism or a person with albinism is more appropriate to say it than to say, oh, you are albino or that. So this word, people are using it now for, they've been using it, sometimes to hurt a person with albinism, just to, that I prefer a person with albinism and albino.
Yeah, because something as well, Rachel. The word albino is a descriptive word. It's describing a person with albinism, and also albino or albino is also occurred in plants and animals. So when I look at the word and I see animals in it, I'm like, no way I'm gonna be labeled as an animal because I'm not an animal. I'm a human being. Yes, I mean, yeah, albinism's a part of me, but I will not be labeled as an albino because it's like, all right, there's different deficiencies, like genetic conditions out there. And one of the ones I always kind of use is like Down syndrome or, any, genetic defects really. So would you call a person Down syndrome, or other, or autism or any deficiencies, then would you label someone that?
No.
So when I look at the word albino, it's like you're labeling me because of a deficient, because of the way I look or the way that I came out. No, I prefer you say Marvelin's a PWA person. She's a person with albinism, or if you see multiple people with albinism, you say they're people of albinism. And I think that's more appropriate. And because of the stigma around albinism, and people use the word albino, as you said, they use it to hurt a person, and they also use that word to degrade a person with albinism. So I strongly wouldn't advise. I am educating my friends and family about this now. A person from Jamaica put out a post and I said, use the term people or a person of albinism because of the stigma around that word, and albino is a animal or plant or any living organisms, that has this as well. So when you adjust a person, adjust them as a PWA more than an albino, because albino, it carries such a negative stigma. And so one of the things when people, it didn't really bother me as such, like, but it's just the fact that when you're saying it, because tonality carries a strong message, Rachel, and the way you say certain words, and you say it with such hey, or you say it in such a derogatory commentary way, it just, it brings such a negative stigma around it. So I am trying to educate my family that do not use that word albino anymore, because it's a negative word now. And a lot of people now are taking offense to this.
Yeah.
It's like somebody using the N word. It's like a white folk using the N word on you, and you wouldn't like that.
Yeah. Many people need to be educated. Even my team in GRC, every time when someone want to join the organization, I always told them, this is the way you have to address people with albinism. A person with albinism, don't call a person with albinism albino or albino. Don't do it. So we try, we train people, and then I told them as well, when you go and do talking to community, this is how you're gonna, teach the community as well to know that because people use, before you were just albino, this how they used to address.
And other names as well, and other names, because in Jamaica they call us Dundus.
Yeah, even in it's the same as DRC, they call Ndundu.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ndundu. Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you now, I never really look at that as a bad word, but my husband, he hates that word with such passion. He hates it.
Yeah.
He hates that word. It's like if you insult me with my condition in front of my husband, he gets angry. He gets angry.
Yeah.
That if you really gonna pee him off by calling me any demeaning words in front of his face, that will piss him off really much. He will get upset, and don't do it. And that's one thing, and he hates that word. So obviously, and a lot of people, I'm gonna tell you the truth right now, like a lot of people use words, especially when I didn't know that Dundus was an African word. I didn't know it was. And he's the one who told me that was an African word, and it means white or something like that. And obviously they use it in a very negative way. So it's other words that they use towards people with albinism, it's very degrading. So that's one of the things that we have to educate. I'm not a Dundus, I'm not Dodo, or whatever you want to call it, or I'm not, or Ash is not either. So she is a person with albinism, and she is a human being just like you. What makes her so different, or what makes me so different from you, that you want to degrade somebody by calling them a name that is very, very demeaning. Very demeaning. So these are things that we have to bring out in an awareness that this is why bullying is so high. I'm being serious. Bullying is so high, and depression rate is so high. And this is because of the name callings and everything in the albinism community. So we have to continue to really keep going with the message, and to be the solution and not the problem. So I'm going to move on to mental health aspects of albinism. So, as a part of Y4C advocacy, we talk about, and on the podcast, I bring up about mental health in the albinism community. We're not going to just talk about the lack of melanin in the skin, hair, and eyes, but we want to talk about the psychological and emotional aspects of having albinism. So for Aj, what's that like for her and her mental health?
She's fine, but she's a as a person, she like more attention. She like to give her more attention, even if with all my children. She's the first one. She have 5 siblings, but she like more attention, you know. So sometimes I don't know if that's the way she is, or is it because she's because she have albinism, but this is how she is. Even if she's a big sister, so she like more attention from me, you know, from both of us, you know. But from apart from that, she's fine. She's yeah.
Is mental health spoken about in the DRC regarding albinism?
Can you say it again?
Mental health.
Yeah.
Is that topic brought up in the DRC?
Yes, in the DRC from all the people, the person with albinism over there. Yes, there is, you know, because of all this discrimination, rejection is affecting mental health with people with albinism a lot, especially in DRC. Yes, there's a lot, you know, is affecting them, you know, having all this as a person. If you have all this rejection, you have this people reject you, especially from inside your family and outside, it's going to affect your mental health a lot. So we need to we are working about this, you know, trying to talk to the person with albinism, you know, telling them that I know it's not easy. It's not easy for them, but we are trying our best to, you know, to talk and listen to them. Yeah.
I'm glad that this is exposed, because I mean, okay, dealing with the physical is one thing, but obviously, you know, your mindset and the way society has treated a PWA, it does take a toll on the self-esteem. It takes a toll on their confidence. They feel rejected. They feel dejected. They don't feel that they belong in society. And that is a good thing that this is talked about. I've done these talks, and 9 times out of 10, mental health is not brought up. It's very seldom. It's very rare. And to really gonna keep pushing to these talks more about mental health in the albinism community, because your mental health does matter. It matters because, you know, you want to have a positive mental health and to replace the negative with that. So it's important that, you know, mental health and albinism is to be exposed more, have talks with people, you know, even if it's just one word can change a person's day, and it can also brighten up a person's day as well, just make them feel that they belong. And one of the things I've learned is when a person doesn't feel beautiful, and if you just give them a compliment, you know, just cheer them up, but you don't understand one word changes another person's day. And that person, you know, especially in the albinism community, we need to show more support with them in the albinism community. But in order for that to happen, they have to take accountability to make that first step, to reach out to those who are willing to help. I know it's not easy to trust people. I know it's not easy to have confidence in people, but just reach out to the ones that I think professionals and people that are in your community that are supporting your cause, or, you know, organizations like yours and mine, to really reach out and don't suffer in silence, because it's not healthy to absorb or to suffer alone, because there's help out there. The right help is there, and it's just getting to the right people and the right connections that will help you out. So Rachel, the floor is open. So I don't know if anyone else has joined in, but the floor is open for Albinism Talk with Marvelyn. Now.
Oh.
Hello.
Hi.
It's Sylvia here.
Hi,
Yes,
Sylvia.
she's back. Yeah. Right.
Oh,
hello, Rachel. How are you? All right?
Yeah, I'm fine, Sylvia. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I just want a couple of things. I think as you say, particularly about the term albino, I absolutely agree, because it is a derogatory where I think most of the albinism community, if you put a survey, I can say a very high percentage would say that it is derogatory, because you're talking as somebody is a something and not as someone. We all have names that our parents gave or christened with. And it's like you said, Marvelyn, it's like calling somebody the N-word or Down syndrome, which is no noun, but years ago it was known as mongrel, or the spastics, these horrible labels. And they are very, very, sort of what I call dehumanizing, othering, less than. And that's what they actually, these terms are. So, yes, I think there is a push to say PWAs or people with albinism. I like the Chinese terms. I don't know if you heard, it's known as, we call it the children of the moon. Now that means because we're pale, they call it moon children or children of the moon, which I think is a lovely term. I wouldn't mind being called that, a moon child. But lots of societies, particularly of the Black community of colorism, and that includes Asians, and Africans, that people with, the PWA community have really had it, been through the mill. I think we are the most cruelest towards people with albinism, the most cruelest, dreadfully cruel. And yes, of course, it will affect one's mental health. I mean, what I would like to congratulate Rachel's husband to staying with her, because a lot of education with the health work, right, with the NHS, they don't know. There is more research going into it. But when the mother has this baby, it's bad, she's shocked and, but you didn't sort of scream, jumped off the bed and ran away. Well, in Africa, a lot of them tend to, because the reaction of the health workers, I mean, it's case after case in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and that puts the mother off naturally. They think, oh my goodness, what have I birthed, And then you get the reaction of the husband and then the community. So of course you feel ashamed and you want nothing to do with it. And the husband probably arguing with her, where have you been doing? You've been unfaithful to me, etc. It's so literally as soon as they're born, the discrimination and the ostracization, demonization, stigmatization. There's a lot of isations that PWIs have to face. And so the mental health, going through from school, school all the way to adulthood is tough. It's very tough. You, both of you, I mean, I'll commend, as I say, Rachel, that you had a husband who stayed with you, because in Africa, that's very unusual. It's very unusual. And because to have supportive families from the word go, after all, it's the families who you're born into it. And if they don't support you, who does? Who actually does? Nobody does. So, and that's why I notice a lot of people with albinism who are confident, who become lawyers, models, and whatever, when they've been interviewed, and like you do, Marvelyn, say, how was your family? A lot of them say, oh, I had a very supportive family. They treat me as they were. So when they went to school, start school, they're equipped. They know that they go through a tough time, but at least they know that their family supports them. And that's why you get that confidence, that sliding self-esteem. But when you don't have that, like people like myself are stripped of that, you're on your own, you think the whole world's against you. And you say often, what have I done to do this? What have I done to deserve this? And so it does, strip you off your self-esteem. You feel that you are a monster. Everybody's looking, laughing, and labeling you.
Yes.
And that's hard. That is very, very hard. And I think there needs to be more sessions for the mental health in the albinism community, because although it's unspoken of, suicides are very high. Well, that's not surprising if you feel the whole world's against you. It's very high, because what's the point of staying in a society where nobody wants you?
True.
You know, they just don't. You know, we are, as I said at another webinar, the most marginalized, stigmatized, demonized, you ostracize people on this planet. We really are, especially those of color. You know, I mean, the Black community, and I'm gonna be brutally honest, are the most wickedest towards, other, to PWAs. They really are. Terrible stories. We don't have to go through them again. You know the stories. And I think in the Black community, it's not spoken of. And it's interesting with the name calling, like they used to call part of Tanzania is called 00, Mzungu, and the ones you've mentioned, and of course the term albino is if you're some kind of an animal or not a human. I do have a name. My name's Sylvia. I'm a person with albinism. It's like calling somebody measles. Well, you don't say there goes measles. You say somebody who has the measles or somebody with measles. It's the same category. And it is used in a derogatory term to sort of strip them of their humanity. And that's how it all starts. It's how the name calling, the labeling. And of course, when it continues unchecked, unpoliced, it leads to the killing, because as I said just a moment ago, you're dehumanizing, othering, less than. And that's, and it's very, very serious, these people, when they call them names. I mean, nowadays, it's not acceptable to call them the N-word. Well, when I was a child, it was a standard. It was even a rhyme, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I don't know if you know that one, and other, I won't sort of say it on because we're on air, but it was a standard. And of course, on the Robinson jar, the gollywog on the Robinson jar, the brooch. Well, that's now unacceptable. They had to remove that, the company. So it's the same thing with albinism. When these people call people names, I always say, well, how would you like somebody to call you certain names? Would you like it? You treat people how you would like to be treated. Mm-hmm. And that is the bottom line. And the hope for albinism with Rachel, I was quite intrigued because, in the UK, there are people of African descent, but very few, albinism with African descent, but very few, organizations. There's the Albinism Fellowship, the main one of Northern Ireland and the UK, but there's very few. We're starting now, which I think is wonderful, to support people with albinism, particularly of colorism, African descent, especially, because we're the ones who really get it in the neck. The Black community, are especially cruel towards people with albinism. I mean, some of them have been to hell and back. They really have, even in this country. So you can imagine the cruelty in Africa. Well, we know what goes on in Africa. I don't want to sort of go off my top again, but and I think it's the advocacy, sticking together. As I said at another webinar, more organisations, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa and in, you know, parts of the world. But what Rachel was saying, you were asking Rachel, oh, is it other parts of Africa? Yes, it is. I mean, the Cameroon, for example, the DRC is the largest continent country on Africa. It's huge.
So wait,
Ghana.
Sorry to hear that. Well, the Cameroon one, because that's a rumor that was going around. I'm in a group on WhatsApp called Albinism Society, and they were saying about that. Is that even true that there was a person in Cameroon that got killed?
Yes, recently. It was a little baby girl. It was quite recently, only a few weeks back, where she was kidnapped and she was killed for body parts, and she was left. The remains was left by the mosque, you know, with her head missing. So obviously they took the head and left the body near the mosque. You know, they just threw it near the side. That was the Cameroon. There was recent, I mean, it's not as frequent as in East Africa, Southeast, like Malawi, Kenya, Tanzania. You know, as I said in another webinar, you hear more of these because there are powerful charities like Under the Same Sun and Standing Voice. You know, they are the big guns. They even lobby at United Nations level. But yes, the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, it's known. It's, as I said before, it's Africa's dirty little secret. Now it's becoming to the fore. Now the cat's out of the bag. Now the West are being aware of this. Now people are talking about it. And now the government are embarrassed, you know, ashamed to try and do something about it, although they're dragging their heels. But, you know, it's out. It's out. People know now. And yes, it's just more and more advocacy, more education, big time, not just in the teaching, but especially the health workers, because some of the reaction and the testaments of that, you know, when they give birth, everybody knows about it. They all come in and stare at the mother with the child, and, you know, and they feel like you're in a zoo, come to gawp at this sort of thing that she's given birth to, and it goes all around the hospital. So it has put, you know, mothers off, you know, as I said earlier, it puts them off. And then you got the husband having a go at her as well. So she's got it from all angles. And of course, there's no support. And there have been cases of infanticide, you know, because it's the community and the shame and the gossiping. They succumb to the, and they just abandon the baby or poison it, kill it. You know, they kill it. But so that particularly the health workers, I'm very interested in Standing Voice are doing similar to what they're doing in DRC, what they call mothers and children with albinism. They're trying to get a network of mothers with children with albinism, because you know, they really, you know, because the mothers have a tough time. They're abandoned. In the West, it's not quite so bad because, you know, when the man was the main breadwinner, because it's still very much a male-dominated society, he walks off and she's left with the children destitute. And that's what makes her more vulnerable. You know, you get the cousins or anything conspire and plot to kill the child. You know, you hear them coming in as policemen, knocking on the door as policemen, and then they barge in and snatch the child. And this is happening in front of other siblings, which makes them traumatized. And very often it's families, because it has to be families who know where they live, because it's not like in the UK where you have street lights. You know, they have these simple houses. They're not always in straight rows. So they have to know exactly which house it is. And the people who would know are members of the family or in the community. That is what, you know, that's sort of in Africa. In the UK, as I said, again, I don't want to sort of repeat myself. I think the Black community need to speak up. They really need to speak up. It's become a taboo. They know about it. They mock us, as I said before, but they just cannot admit, you know, how they have treated us. And this is education. They almost ram it down their throats, you know, to that point, you know, because it's well, we've neglected. I think there's a kind of self-loathing in the Black community. I really do. will always seem to be this self-loathing. Yes, if you come from good families with albinism and you got that great support. I wasn't so fortunate, I'm afraid. So that's why I'm quite, I know I come across a bit angry, and I hope I don't come across too bitter. But
no. I don't really see it as a bitter thing.
no,
I don't think I just think because everybody has their story to share.
they do have their story,
and everybody has their pain. So we're not here to judge anyone and stuff like that. It's about sharing your story and, you know, and understanding another person's, you know, story. And it's horrific that, you know, people like yourself never had that strong support and family bond and stuff like that. And one of the things I've come to learn as well, is family can either make you or break you. So
absolutely.
And one of the things what you just mentioned about, you know, people know where the people with albinism live or whatever. I think most of the time the crime that they commit, these attacks on people with albinism, I just think that it's premeditated. It was all planned. Because ain't no way you're gonna go to somebody's house and say you're gonna pretend that you're like a police officer, or you're gonna chop somebody's hand off and so forth, without having any form of premeditation or planning in this.
Of course it is. That's exactly what they do. They conspire and plan, because sometimes when the police arrest them, it turns out to be either the husband, the brother, the cousin, or the uncle. So they all sit and plan because it's money. It comes back to money. Like a hand costs $5,000, a whole leg, you know, 10,000, the entire body, £75,000. You know, there was a case where a father chopped his son's hand off and tried to sell it with a witch doctor for £5,000. This is the sort of things they do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you probably heard things like this, Rachel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Africa. I mean, oh my God, you know, it's just, it makes you ashamed sometimes, you know, because I'm African descent. But I think if I was in Africa, I know full well I wouldn't be here now. I would not be here because, you know, I wouldn't be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The more I'm doing these talks, Rachel, is the more I'm learning. I'm learning so much about these type of things. I mean, like when you hear about these myths, and you hear about these myths that goes down, you wouldn't think it's that bad. But because, as I said in another talk, that undercover journalists is going to Africa, and also social media is a powerful tool to bring awareness to this type of barbaric act. I call it barbaric because it is inhumane. To know that this is still going on, I literally, as I said before, family can either make you or break you, even sometimes sell you out as well. And one of the things I've learned is with albinism, it's like a lot of these people that talk about these myths, in my opinion, I think it's contradictory. Why I think it's contradictory is because one minute they say, oh, we are a curse, right? We're cursed and we did, you know, no one shouldn't come near us. But then it's like you want to chop off our hand, chop off our foot for rituals and saying we bring wealth. So I'm a bit baffled in the sense that why are you contradicting yourself by saying we are a curse, but yet we bring wealth to you?
Yes, I mean, like the DRC has one of the biggest mining deposits, you know, of copper, cobalt, you know, lithium in the world. It's huge. And a lot of the miners have known, and fishermen as well, they cut off PWO's hair because it's supposed to give them good luck. They wave it into their nets. The other thing they use as amulets, like a finger or an ear or a tongue or something, they wear around their necks, the miners. They go, you know, like in Britain years ago, we used to have what we call the rabbit's foot. Now, a rabbit's foot with a brooch was to give good luck. It's the same how they do with albinism. You know, it's just a commodity. And because they see them as not human, you know, so therefore, because they see them as not human, they you know, there's the human rights it's not applicable to them. So that's why they carry out all the human wrongs.
Yeah.
And this is the really the crutch of it. As I said at another webinar, they hate us. I'm sorry, but they hate us. They really do. I can't really. There aren't really words to describe it. And I say, like I speak to other PWAs, what have we done? You know, what have we actually done? These little children who, you know, have their limbs, you know, they become mutilated. They're kids, they're children, they're only toddlers. They didn't ask to be born like that. You know, as I said in another one, would they like it if somebody did that to their children? And I think a lot of it is power and manipulation because, you know, like you mentioned, Rachel, when it's election time, this is when it's most dangerous because it spikes. It really spikes. And it's rumors. In fact, the rumors, I think they've never really caught the customers because when you sort of traffic, any traffic, whether it's human parts, whatever, there's a demand and supply. Well, obviously, demand are the customers, and those customers, they think it's the higher echelons of society, politicians, businessmen, you know, the powers to be. But they've never been caught. It's always the actual perpetrators who carry out the, you know, the dirty work. They get caught, and some of them have actually been killed in prison because they thought they were going to spill the beans. And this is what the UNIKAO was saying when she did a report, Amnesty International, when they did a report. And this is where, you know, PWIs live in such fear of elections. The one in the Cameroon, I think it's, you know, elections coming up and others, but this is where they most fear. You know, at least in this country, when we have campaign, we know we PWAs don't have to fear that we're going to have somebody's going to knock on our door and chop our arms off. But in Africa, it's a very real thing. It really is. It's shocking.
Right. I mean, for the Caribbean, for me, you know, you know, maybe they have their little prejudice towards PWAs or even light-skinned blacks, you know, they have their little prejudices, but I've never heard of any form of killings in Jamaica or in the Caribbean. That's where I'm originally from. And I've never heard of that, and I've never been exposed to that. But can you imagine, Africa is killing us, and it's killing us. And believe me, when I think of these things that's going on, sometimes I really think, why did God create these such wicked people? You know, in my mind, that goes through my head. You know, why these people are still here? You're doing all these evil doings and evil works.
It's Satan, isn't it? I think there's because there's obviously some demonic thing behind it. Because I've discussed this. I think there is because it's linked with witchcraft. It's linked with witchcraft, and it seems to they seem to attack the most vulnerable people. And it's you know, not just PWAs, but the disabled, the elderly. They seem to like to try and weed out people that doesn't fit or meet up to their job description or specification, or you're not belong to that fraternity. There's this thing of difference. They've just got this thing, if you're not different, you know, kill it, get rid of it. We don't want you, we don't like you. Why don't you go away or we will destroy you, sort of thing. A sort of a threat. Is there some kind of a threat? But I think in Black Sahara Africa, yes, I always, you know, get on about sub-Sahara because that's where the killings are, is gone to that extreme because it's never really been checked until recently, unchecked, unpoliced, and it's been allowed to go, although it was hidden, it was hush hush. You know, as I said, it was Africa's dirty little secret until the journalist, Vicky Vitima, heard about the rumors. That was in Tanzania. And of course, she exposed it to the world. She happened to work for BBC Africa, you know, and that's when it really came to the fore. That was back in 2008-9. But it's been gone on for centuries. It really has. And I think it has, you know, deeply shamed Africa, because they were seen as the progressive, you know, yes, they have their troubles, their wars, diseases and that, but this is systematic genocide. And they're picking on young children and babies. They're their eyes on the prize. The more they say ritual killings. Now, the term ritual, if you look in the dictionary, is a sort of ceremonial. So really, if you put it in layman's term, they're tortured. The louder they scream, the purer the blood, you know, they drain the blood. I mean, we don't really have to go into the horrors, but it's savagery, pure and refined savagery. They're not barbarians, they're savages. That's what they are.
That, you know, that's why we have, you know, we need to work as together, you know, raise awareness, because there's many people are ignorant. They don't know, you know, when they see a person with albinism, they think, oh, you know, about what they heard is a curse, or having a part of the body, you can get what you want, you can get rich, you can, you know. So you see, we have, you know, you need to work hard and then raise awareness and talk about it in the community. And so,
yes. Ladies, time is really speeding up now.
Okay, I thought that's why, but it was good to talk, you know, to you, to both of you, and I think the bottom line is education. It really is in all spheres.
Yes.
So time is fast spent, ladies. Thank you so much again, Sylvia, for joining us again, and thank you to Rachel again. So Rachel, one last final thought before we close this talk. What's your last message you would like to leave with the world, or to those who want to watch the replay? What is your message?
Yeah, my message is for those who, if you have the opportunity to say it loud, you know, about what's happening around the world, raise awareness, you can do it. Support organization, you know, as Hope of Albinism and Marvelin, and there is many organizations right now around the world. If you can, it's not just you need to have a child with albinism, or you have a person with albinism to support this or to raise awareness. You can be a member of the family or the community, and we need you to come and, you know, to end this discrimination, what's happening in the world. Our voice needs to be heard out there for the future, for our children, because people with albinism get born every day somewhere in the world, somewhere every day. There's one person with albinism being born. So this is what we are calling to do, and we asking you to join us to raise awareness about albinism around the world. Thank you, Marvelin, to having me tonight. It's a pleasure, you know, to discuss, to talk about albinism. And thank you, Sylvia, to being here tonight. And I'm so happy.
Support, you know, we were to give support. Give each other support.
Before we go, ladies, Rachel, what are your social media platforms? Would you like those who want to get in touch with you for Hope of Albinism? What are your socials? Can you share that with us before we go?
Yeah, we are in Facebook, Hope of Albinism UK. We have DRC, and we are on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We are there. If you want to get in touch with us, our details is there, and the door is open to everyone. If you want to be involved and help us and support us, you are welcome.
Amazing. Oh, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to Albinism Talk with Marvelin. Don't forget to please follow Yell for Change, which is YELL, the number 4, and the word change all in one, on all social media platforms. And if you are a PWA or a parent with a child or children with albinism and you would like to be a part of this podcast, please get in touch on Yell for Change Instagram page, or you can email us at yellforchange@gmail.com. And also, you know, Rachel has shared her socials, so Hope of Albinism. You can find her on Facebook, or you can go on Instagram and find her on her socials. And also, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Yell for Change YouTube channel. And remember, yell for albinism. Together we stand, together we can. Thank you so much for taking your time out with me on Albinism Talk. Good night and have a good week.
Bye.